core. This tutorial is all about building a wonderfully dynamic and functional core just for you. And I'm not talking about those surface rectus abdominis six-pack muscles. What I'm talking about are your deeper, more structurally supportive core muscles. And we're going to do two simple movements that are going to target them in a way that might just surprise you. So let's get into it. As always, press that subscribe button if you love these movement videos so that you can get them into your or get connected with them each week. Now, what you'll need for this tutorial is a bolster. I've got a yoga bolster, but if you don't have a yoga bolster, you can use a yoga block, you can use a rolled up towel, blanket, pillow, whatever you have nearby, because what the prop is going to do is just going to provide some feedback for your brain and your body to move in and out from. Now, first things first, bring your hands onto your ribs, the front of the ribs here, and just dig around, see if you can find those wonderful rib bones of yours. And then once you've found them, press them forward. Feel like the ribs are pushing forward in a way that you're thrusting those ribs up. And then the opposite movement, let's drop the ribs down. Even if it feels like your shoulders are collapsing a bit, don't worry about that. So let's bring the ribs forward again, and then tuck them down. Now, I want you to get a sense of something here, because this is our whole focus for this tutorial. Lift your ribs up. Notice that your ribs are poking out, that you can probably get your fingertips underneath the ribs more or less. Now, when you bring your ribs down, you want to feel like you're moving them into the abdominal wall, that they're getting tucked into the abdominal wall in a sense. Now, this is the fun part. I'm going to invite you to laugh with me while you do this. So do, and even if it feels silly, that'll make you laugh more. So let's all do a little laughing. And while you're laughing with your ribs down, do you notice that there might be some muscle engagement here? So do that again. Hee hee hee, ha ha ha, laugh, laugh, laugh. And right away I feel that by bringing my ribs on, doing a little laugh, I could feel those core muscles wake up. These are the core muscles I'm talking about. So now, what we're going to do is do it on the side. So you're going to take your bolster or your blanket or whatever you've got here, and you're just going to lie on the side like this, and you're going to place that bolster just underneath the side ribs. And let's take the side ribs onto the bolster. Now, this actually might feel kind of relaxing, but don't get too comfortable. What we're going to do is just gently, so notice your bottom shoulder, the supported shoulder here, is probably dropping down. Let's lift out of it. Now keep that, and then bring these ribs, check to see if you twisted up and back a little bit like this. And if you did, twist so that you're in a more neutral position like so. Now your ribs, those low ribs that are touching the bolster, you're going to lift them off. Good, and then lower them back down. Ideally, nothing else moves. So all it is just your ribs lifting up and then down. Try not to move your pelvis too much and just have the ribs lift and down. So let's do that a few more times. Lift. Notice when you lift the ribs off of the bolster, you get that beautiful contraction again through your core. Lower down. And the good news is I'm not telling you to do anything with your core. The actual action of lifting your rib cage off the ground engages the core for you. So this is such a beautiful way of working with those core muscles. Ribs up, ribs down. Good. Okay, let's hold and keep holding and keep hovering those ribs off of the bolster and then lower slowly down. Let's do it to the other side. So you can roll over to the other side. I'm just turning this way so we can still see each other. All right, same thing. Prop yourself up. We're not dropping in that bottom shoulder. Stay lifted, and then bring your attention to the ribs that are connected to the bolster, and then lift them up and then down, and then lift and then down. It's so great. And so we're going to keep doing this as I talk. It's so great to use something underneath your ribs because it's that biofeedback. Your brain knows where to move because it's moving away from something very clear and obvious, which is your bolster. Good. A few more times. Lowering and then lifting. And you're just lifting the ribs, nothing else. Lift, lift, lift the ribs, and then let's hold the ribs up. Hold, hold, hold. So nice. And then lower down. Now, there's a great yoga pose that you could incorporate this. So that would be a side plank. Now, you could do a forearm side plank. I'm just going to show you the option. And that's a great place to start. Lift the ribs, stretch your legs out, and then there's the work. Instead of dropping the ribs down, you can lift them. So now this is a cue that you can start to bring into anything that gives you that you need to have strength in the side body. But wait, we have one more variation. We're going to do that same movement from the front ribs. So we just did that to the side. We're going to do that to the front ribs. All right, now we've come down to the ground. We've still got our blanket or our bolster, and we're going to place that blanket or bolster underneath your rib cage. Now, if your bolster is too round, it might be a little bit too high. You'll have to play around to see which is the perfect height, because we want the bolster or blanket or pillow to press and hold and touch the front of your rib cage. And then your pelvis, the bones of your pelvis, the front of the pelvis will be pressing, the pubic symphysis is going to be pressing on the ground gently. And that's going to act like an anchor for your pelvis so that you're not putting too much compression into your low back. Now, we've got the pubic symphysis gently anchored to the floor. Your forearms are more or less underneath your shoulders. And again, we're not just flopping into the shoulders, we're lifting out of them. Let's put our attention into the front of the ribs, the part of the ribs that are touching the bolster. And then we're going to lift and then lower. And then lift. And this might be a small lift, because if you immediately lift the ribs and start to get some pain in your lower back, double check that your pubic symphysis, that pubic bone, is gently on the ground. If that still doesn't provide a good solution, you could actually do the same movement off of the ground or off of the bolster, where you have your head down and then lift. So this is one option. And then the second option is with the bolster. And there we go. Now lift ribs, and then we can take this a little bit further. So bringing it into some more familiar yoga poses, like a plank pose. So I'm going to do a forearm plank. My forearms are going to stay on the ground. I'm going to lift my ribs off the ground first, or off my bolster first, tuck my toes, and then I'm coming up into plank. And I'm going to try to still keep that same action of ribs in, ribs in, ribs in. And then like magic, my core is working without me having to contract or tell my core, like the old cue, pull your navel to the spine. That's not as helpful as bringing those ribs in. So play with that. That's the preliminary movement, bringing your ribs in, bringing your ribs in from the side, in and down, waking up the deeper core muscles. You can add that, as you saw, to some different yoga poses, even ones that we didn't talk about. If there's something else that's popping into your mind, try that. Now have fun with it. Again, press that subscribe button, sign up for the newsletter email list to stay connected each week with more wonderful movement tutorials. Thanks for joining me, everyone.